Did Garou actually travel back in time with Saitama? We're going to get to the bottom of this question in today's video, but before that, if you guys enjoy One Punch Man content like this, then this is a channel for you, so please make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on because I post One Punch Man chapter reviews along with discussion and theory videos much like this multiple times a week, so you'll never get any shortage of that content here. But let's get on with the video. So it might seem a little crazy to think that Garou actually traveled back with Saitama because we can clearly see that he dies in that future timeline. But I don't think things are that black and white. But to kind of get to the bottom of this, we have to talk about how Saitama was able to travel back in time in the first place. So in chapter 168, after Garou realized the error of his ways and decided to try and undo all the wrong that he's done and bring Tereo back to life, he tells Saitama that he wants him to copy his ultimate technique that he himself hasn't been able to master yet. So he has him take a similar position to Garou and begins to show his technique, and also says that if anyone can master the power of God without taking God's hand, it's you. And at that moment, this is when God actually starts to confiscate Garou's power, therefore slowly killing him and turning him to salt. But before Garou completely dies, we see an explanation to, what's happening or what Saitama is doing by copying Garou's technique, where the narrator says the two of them were imagining their own inner universes, particles and antiparticles generated in pairs by Garou's intense cosmic rays. As each subatomic particle began moving in opposite directions, they began to imitate each other's movements. When all of the subatomic particles inside Saitama did this, and it kind of cuts back to them and says, now Saitama, get going and defeat it. You of all people can do it. What you've got to defeat is the ominous future. And at that moment, Garou completely turns to salt and crumbles away, assumingly killing him. So then we see that Saitama successfully started to travel back in time. And as he's seeing all these, various events that happened in the chapters prior, he gets to the part where Garou first appears as Cosmic Fear Garou, and where he kind of uses his cosmic radiation to kill everybody there. So Saitama takes the opportunity to kind of just punch through that part of like the time portal that he's in or whatever, and nails Garou right in the face before any of the events in the prior chapters happened, and cracks his cosmic Garou shell, and that's basically the end of the fight. So this is a new Garou, and obviously not the one that died in the future timeline. But we see that in chapter 169, when Tereo's laying flat on his face on the ground and he's actually not dead yet at this point, we hear someone calling his name and end by saying, "Tereo, get up." And it's very reminiscent of when Garou tells Tereo to get up when he's trying to save him from Bug God and Royal Ripper. And it turns out that it's actually like this ghost form of Garou that says this to him, and he has a smile on his face, most likely because he knows that he saved Tereo, and he kind of fades away, and that's the last that we see of him. Now this, ghost Garou might just be some kind of like, shonen final goodbye thing that is kind of common in a lot of, jump manga and stuff like that. But it might be a little bit more complicated than that, because although Garou says that he hasn't mastered this technique yet, which is why he wanted Saitama to do it so he can go back and correct everything, I do think that in the moments before Garou completely died, his essence or his soul or something traveled back in time along with Saitama and was alive long enough to see that Saitama successfully stopped the current timeline Garou from, killing everybody and killing Genos and all that stuff, and kind of say his final goodbye to Tereo before completely fading away, because, he still did die in the future timeline. But what's really interesting about this is that as we see with Saitama when he comes back to the, current timeline and fuses with his, current timeline self, and there's no longer two Saitamas, the same thing could have happened to Garou with his, ghost version that traveled back with Saitama, if that's indeed what happened. Now, we don't have 100% confirmation as to whether or not Saitama remembers, even little bits of the fight or anything like that. But if that is the case, if there's still some tiny memories that are lingering for Saitama, then that could kind of explain why Garou just flat out gives up as soon as he gets nailed by Saitama in the face. And it's just kind of defeated and wants to die. Because we see that in the future timeline, that Garou also was completely defeated by Saitama and knew that it was over for him, and he also just wanted to die. and eventually he kind of wanted to undo everything that he did and set things straight. So a sliver of that consciousness or that outlook on everything could have fused with the current Garou, and it's something that we might see get touched on in chapter 170, because we did see that Murata tweeted that 170 will kind of be like an epilogue chapter wrapping up Garou's arc finally for good, or at least for, you know, the foreseeable future. So what I'm hoping we see here, if, you know, this theory is true, is Garou kind of escapes and we see where he ended up going, and he kind of has this inner monologue where, you know, maybe he starts questioning why he feels like he doesn't want to be evil anymore, why he feels like, you know, he has these weird memories that don't make any sense, and it kind of gives the current timeline Garou that character development that we saw him get in his future self, because, you know, that's still kind of lacking right now for Garou, and I really hope that he does kind of have that self-realization like he did in his future self, just to kind of tie his character arc up nicely. But what do you guys think? What do you think about, you know, that ghost Garou showing up? Do you guys think it's just kind of like a stereotypical shonen final goodbye type of thing? Or do you think there's something more to it? Do you think that maybe a part of Garou traveled back in time with Saitama successfully? Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you guys think about this. And if you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button. And again, please subscribe and hit notifications if you haven't already, because once chapter 170 comes out, I will be dropping a chapter review immediately after it comes out. So you won't want to miss that. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later.